Thank you, Mr. Gavik. Sada ćemo, dakle, imamo još jedan predavač, bit će sve dve teme, bit će malo skraćene, dakle, zbog vašeg strpljenja. Dakle, ponovo ćemo čuti gospodina Prebena Kristiansena, on je pčelari savjetodavac za zdravlje pčela. Dakle, bit će dva predavanja. Prvo predavanje bit će o... Molim za pažnju, molim vas. Molim za pažnju. Dakle, sljedeće od dve teme o kojoj će govoriti gospodin Preben, bit će, dakle, prva tema je suzbijanje bolesti pčela u Švedskoj sa osvrtom na Nozemozu i američku kugu. Pa ćete nakon toga čuti tehniku pčelarenja u Skandinaviji. Dakle, imat ćete dva predavanja od strane istog predavača. Ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce once again Mr. Preben Kristiansen, and he will explain two themes, two presentation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. You keep translating for you. we get a break, but you don't. Yes, I think I'd like to. To fill in what Norman said. I think it's really important, this integrated pest management philosophy. Treat when it's necessary, but don't treat when it's not necessary. One thing I would like to say about this article about sublimation, I think it's a little, not completely correct to say sublimation. It's sublimation with the Varox. Because we know from test studies that have been done in other places with other, equipment for sublimation, that you can get good results and you can get very bad results. So this study was done on sublimation with Varox. Okay. We did also many years ago in Sweden, which I didn't have time to show, but it's in here, with Varox, and we didn't get as good as results. We got good results, but not as good results. I don't know why. Maybe we were not.
To je tačno određeni preparat bio koji je testiran u tom radu, što je rezultate prikazao prethodni govornik, i to je trebao da sačeka gospodin koji se nešto bunio. Znači, tačno određeni, a ne ono što je on konkretno, taj gospodin Marković, kako se zove, koristio. Da, treba je da sačeka. Evo, ljudi su čak razumjeli i bez prevođenja da se on nešto buni i da govori o mnogo dužem vremenu koje je potrebno. A priča se sad nastavlja na sa fokusom na integrisani menadžment generalno svih problema u pčelarstvu, a sve se vrti oko toga da ne treba tretirati ako nije potrebno. Tako da nastavljamo u tom maniru.
Okay, what I'll talk about now is bee disease control in Sweden, and especially two diseases, American foul brood and Nozematoza.
Šta rade sa američkom truleži i nozemom? Kako se protiv toga bore u Švedskoj?
Just to give an overview what the authorities' role in the bee disease control. We have the Swedish Board of Agriculture. This is a national board, it's a national government agency that is actually leading the work on bee disease control, on the diseases that we have legislations around.
Kako oni sprovode od strane zakona kontrolu pčela, postoji jedan nacionalni švedski bord, odnosno uprava za poljoprivredu, u okviru koje deluje i određena grupa koja se bavi bolestima pčela, a imaju i po regionima, koliko sam shvatio.
And we have one disease and two parasites that are regulated in the legislation in Sweden. It's American foul brood, and then varroamide and tracheomite.
Imaju su two parasites, not three. Two parasites only.
Yeah. Only two parasites. That's varroamide.
Jednu bolest i dva parazita koja su pod, da kažem, kao kod nas u veterini programu mera obuhvaćeni, odnosno regulisani šta se radi.
And so far we haven't found the tracheal mite, so we only have American foulwood and Merlot.
Ali pošto nema ovog drugog krpelja, tropilelapsa, u principu sve se svodi na američku trulež i na varovu.
Sweden is divided in 21 counties, and you see the borders on the map here. And in each county there are a number of bee inspectors. We have around 500 bee inspectors in Sweden.
Švedska je podeljena na 21 okrug i po njima su raspoređeni inspektori, oko 500 inspektora za pčele.
So here's one county, that's actually the county where I have my beekeeping.
Ovo je okrug gde on pčelari.
And the red lines show the borders for the bee inspectors.
A crvene linije pokazuju opseg delovanja jednog pčelarskog inspektora.
So in each area there's a bee inspector, and the smaller, thinner line shows the parishes. I don't know how you call it in a parish.
A u okviru svakog ovog crvenog podregiona, podokruga, postoje opet neki manji okruzi za koje mi nemamo termin, nisu opštine, ne znam kako.
And if it's an area where you suspect that American foulwood can be present, then I need to have my bees inspected before I can move from one parish to another.
Da, isto kao što je kod nas potrebno da imate, da pčelarski inspektor pregleda pčela ako hoćete da ih premeštate iz jednog u drugi okrug.
And most of southern Sweden is suspected area for American foulwood.
Most areas?
Most of the southern part of Sweden.
Okay.
Yes.
They are mostly...
We don't have them.
They are free of American.
No, it's just, well, I can show you, it's a little tricky because most of the southern part of Sweden is designated as an area where you can suspect American foulwood.
Većina delova u tom južnom regionu Švedske su takvi da se sumnja da imaju američku trulež.
I don't know how much American foulwood we have here in Serbia. I can show you some statistics on Sweden a little later, but some of you may be familiar with American foulwood. You have this typical ropiness from the larvae when it's deceased.
Ne znam koliko ste srodni sa ovom bolešću, koliko se javlja u Srbiji, on će pokazati statistiku za njegovu zemlju, ali čisto znate kako se prepoznaje preko ropines testa.
It's a very infectious disease, and especially because it's a spore-forming bacteria that causes the disease. And these spores, they are very, very long-lived. They can live for tens and tens of years.
Znate da je veoma zarazna bolest, da izaziva bakterija koja formira spore, a spore su izuzetno otporne, užasno puno godina zadržavaju vijabilnost, odnosno efektivnost.
Well, it doesn't show so well in the picture, but this is a microscopic picture of the spores, and the picture below is a microscopic picture of the bacteria in its vegetative stage, and then to the right you see how it works when the bacteria.
Cycles.
Yeah, you can probably explain
Znači, gornja leva slika prikazuje spore pod mikroskopom, donja slika levo pokazuje vegetativne stadijume u vidu bakterijskih štapića, a crno-bela je slika šema razvoja, odnosno ciklusa.
And here is an old drawing by White. It's actually the researcher who identified the bacteria. So you see here, it looks like a healthy larvae, but if that larvae had got the spores when it was very young, it will start to disintegrate and finally end up like a scale. And when the larvae are very, very young, only 10-20 spores are enough to make it deceased.
Ove su originalne slike od Whitea koji je prvi opisao bolest i kaže da je, ako na ranom stupnju se zarazi larva, dovoljno je 20-ak spora da ugine ove nekih 6 onih faza kroz koje prolazi larva.
I know when I talk to Swedish beekeepers about American foul brood, you know there's a disease called European foul brood. Some Swedish beekeepers think, that's something that came from America. No. And European, but that's not the case. The only reason why it's called American foul brood is that it was an American researcher who found it. And almost at around the same period, there was a European group that identified the bacteria that causes what we call European foul brood. Everything comes from Europe.
Naziv je evropska i američka, nemaju veze sa poreklom bolesti, nego imaju veze sa poreklom istraživača koji je prvi put opisao kako američku, on je bio iz Amerike, tako i evropsku truležnu.
Sure. I think most beekeepers would be able to see that when they look at the frame like this, you know, all these cells, there's a lot of cells that have been opened. It doesn't look healthy. You can see the bees have been biting the cells and removing. So in this stage it's not difficult to find American foul brood.
Kad je ovakva klinička slika, nema dileme niti problema da se dijagnostikuje američka trulež, znači tipični znaci.
The tricky thing is to find it in a very, very early stage.
Problem je da se nađe dok ne pokaže takve kliničke znake, odnosno u ranom stadijumu.
As for example in this stage here.
Na primjer, u ovakvoj situaciji.
See, these cells have been open a little, and if you then look at this cell here, it's just because some bees are going out of the cell.
Ali ovo kad je rani stupanj, vi možete da previdite znake bolesti i da ove male rupice na pojedinim poklopčićima protumačite, pa dobro, to se neka pčela tu izleže, nije nikakav znak za uzbunu.
But look at this one here.
Ali ako pogledate ove ćelije sa nekim ostacima hitina,
yeah, you see, when you put in the matchstick in it and took it out, it's a ropiness. So here we have American foul in that cell, which not everyone would be able to identify directly.
Nekada možete, nekada ne, da sa ovim testom u tom stadijumu ranom pomoću šibice utvrdite da li je tu, da li je obolelo.
But if you find it, you can be sure that it's American foul brood. But not to find it, you cannot say it's not American foul.
Ako nađete ovakvu sliku, znači razvučenu larvu u vidu lepljive trake boje čokolade, sigurno je tu američka trulež, ali ako ne nađete, ne znači da nije.
As the drawing showed that when the larvae has disintegrated, it dries out to a scale on the bottom of the cell, on the side of the cell, and these scales you're able to find, for example, within this green circle, there's a typical scale in the cell. That's what also is important to look for when the bee inspectors are inspecting colonies and frames.
Zato morate da gledate da li ima ovih ostataka osušenog tela uginulih pčela, što oni zovu scales, jer to mora malo podrobnije inspektor da pogleda ako nema ovih klasičnih, lako vidljivih simptoma.
So if a beekeeper suspects that he or she has American foul brood in the colony, it's mandatory to call a bee inspector.
Znači uvek kad se posumnja, mora da se zove inspektor koji zna da pregleda pčele.
The bee inspector goes out, inspect the colonies, and if he or she sees these symptoms here, they say, okay, the colony is with symptoms and it has to be destroyed.
Ako inspektor nađe simptome, on odmah kaže društvo mora da se uništi.
In some cases, the bee inspectors uses this equipment is from Vitas and a lateral flow device where you just put some, first take some of the larvae into a small bottle with liquid, shake, put it here, and then you see this blue band here, then, then you know it's American foulwood.
Inspektori nekada koriste I ovaj brzi test na terenu, uzmu larvu za koju sumnjaju da je obolela I usitne I stave na ovu rupicu I vide preko ovih traka da li ima ili nema infekta.
But if the bee inspector is not able to identify or sort of say that this is American foulwood, they can take a sample of the comb, put it in the box like you see on the picture, and then send it to the laboratory.
Ako opet nisu sigurni, onda uzimaju deo sača, to znate I vi kako se uzima I pakuje I nosi šalju u laboratoriju.
And at the laboratory, they will first, well, they'll do the same test with the matchsticks and this Vita device, or they might do a microscopy to see the spores and vegetative stages of the bacteria, or they might even cultivate on these agar plates to see if there are bacteria in the sample.
Znači u laboratoriji možete ili pod mikroskopom, što je manje pouzdano, a najbolje je zasijati na tačno određenoj podlozi u petrišolji I pratiti šta će da iznikne.
And as I said, all colonies with symptoms, they have to be killed and burned.
Društva sa simptomima, jasni, moraju da se unište, odnosno spale.
We're not allowed to use any antibiotics against American foulwood. We are not allowed to make shook swarms either, but they have to be killed.
Znači nemaju ništa drugo od opcija, ne smiju da koriste antibiotike I jedina opcija je da ubiju društvo.
And then the bee inspector has to inspect all colonies in an area of 3 kilometers radius around the affected apiary.
Nakon što je inspektor utvrdio da negde ima američke truleži, dužan je da u radijusu od 3 km sve ostale košnice pregleda.
What we then recommend to the beekeepers is to clean the equipment very thoroughly so that there are not spores left in the equipment. And it's very, very important that this cleaning is done correctly. First, to scrape all the wax and the propolis and so on from the boxes, either wooden boxes or glass boxes, and then you can either with the
plamenik I fire sa vatrom plamenik. Brenner.
Well, you can use the blowtorch on the wooden boxes, but not on the plastic boxes.
No, we have no plastic boxes.
And then at the fine, we have some. I don't know if it's called a sort of a disinfectant agent called Viacone S. You can spray it on the equipment afterwards. It's very important that this tree stays. You don't need the dog.
Nice.
This is the dog of Ingemar Fries. He was very fond of his dog.
Znači, nakon spaljivanja društva, košnice koje su ostale moraju mnogo dobro da se očiste, prvo fizički, mehanički, da se oguli ceo sloj, a onda da se još brenerom dobro opali, znači visokom temperaturom.
What we recommend the beekeepers to do when they have had an outbreak of American foulwood in an apiary is to transfer all the rest of the colonies onto clean equipment on just comb foundation, and then melt down all the old combs and winter the colonies on comb foundation. That's what we recommend the beekeepers.
Sače mora da se isto svo uništi I novo sače da se stavi. So new combs, new
Yeah, we take a new, not a new box, but a box that is clean, completely clean. Put new frames with just comb foundation, put in the box, and then shake the bees onto there.
Samo satne osnove, ništa od starog saća da se koristi. Znači kad se košnice očiste i brenerom srede, onda se stavljaju ramovi sa samo satnim osnovama, ništa od starog saća. Pa da, ovi ramovi celo, lakše tako.
There was a survey done, that's before I started working in Sweden. They did a survey where they divided some apiaries where they did only kill the colonies that were deceased and they didn't do anything with the rest. That's in one study. Because we are not supposed... the legislation in Sweden doesn't say anything about what to do with the colonies that are not symptoms. But we tested, or they tested it. So one group of apiaries, the colonies were killed and nothing else. And another group was the colonies that were deceased were killed, and the rest of the colonies were transferred to clean boxes on comb foundation. And all the old comb was melted down.
Njihovo zakonodavstvo ne propisuje šta da se radi sa društvima koje nemaju kliničke znake, a verovatno imaju uzročnika. Tako da su tu sad varijante na temu šta raditi sa svim ovim samopremom. I imali su eksperimente da ostave sve, samo spale društvo, a ostave košnice pa nasele nove pčele i tako da vide šta će da se desi.
And here you see the results. This is a group of apiaries where the only thing that was done was destroying the colonies that were deceased. And the other one is the group of apiaries where they did this very thorough work. And these are the colonies that didn't have any symptoms, but spores were present in the colonies. And as you see here, the reduction of colonies with spores went from around 30% till 13%. And the other one, the reduction went from just below 60% till only 3%. And it's a very difficult graph because you would have liked the red bars to be at the same height from the beginning, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is the distance from here to here and the distance from here to here. That's what matters.
The right volumes.
This is the proportion of hives with spores. And the proportion of hives with spores in one group was from the beginning 39%, and the year after 13%. So reduction was like this. And the other group, the reduction was much higher. It could be presented in a different way, but it's... Yes. In here, none of the equipment was cleaned. In the other one, everything was cleaned.
Totalno nelogično, znači u ovom levo pokazuje šta se desilo sa društvima u kojima ništa nije očišćeno. No.
I'm sorry.
Obrnuto. U ovim desnima ništa nije očišćeno, a mnogo je manja bila reinfekcija, a u levima su sve očistili i bilo je lošije. Bitno da... The point is that it is not logical result.
Yes,
not expected.
It is a logical.
Nobody expected such results.
Why not? It's very good results. But it is good results. But you didn't expect it? We'll skip it. I can say like this. It is very important
to clean.
To clean. If a beekeeper wants to prevent new outbreaks year after year, it's important that you clean the equipment, you use new foundation, and of course also think about what kind of bees you have. I'll skip this one. I don't know about in Serbia, but in Sweden, and I see even in some other places, that there's a misconception saying that American foulbrood spores are present everywhere in all colonies. But that's not the case. Not at all, actually.
So,
I don't know. Yeah. Do you? I do. What me? I can. What I say is that in Sweden, among beekeepers, not among every beekeeper, but there is a tendency among beekeepers in Sweden saying that American foulbrood spores are present everywhere. Do beekeepers say that here in Serbia too?
Da li mi mislimo ovdje da svako društvo ima manje ili više spora američke truleži, ali ne pokazuje znake? Mislimo, ali to nije tačno. I oni isto misle u Švedskoj, ali to nije tačno.
They do? Okay, sorry about that. I thought you didn't, because then you would have been much wiser than Swedish beekeepers. Because it's not present in every colony, not at all. And as you see here, it's actually interesting. It's many years ago that I think it was actually more or less developed by a Danish beekeeper or researcher, that you can cultivate honey and find spores of American foulbrood from cultivating honey.
Okay.
And it's been done in many places to see, is there a risk in this colony for an outbreak or not?
Radili su analizu meda da bi vidjeli da li može da se desi da izbije bolest, znači med iz košnice, zaseju odatle spore i na osnovu toga vide da li procene, da li će se desiti slučajno izbijanje bolesti.
But a very strange and surprising result from this survey here, this study here, that even in colonies with symptoms, there was 11% of the samples from honey where they didn't find spores.
Dešavalo se da čak i iz društava koje su imala simptome američke truleži, med nije imao spore. Tako da ta metoda preko meda nije pouzdana.
Which is quite strange.
Malo je to čudno, ali...
Another thing is also, if you see on the other side, without spores, we had a number of colonies without spores in this study, that 39% of them had spores.
Honey had.
In the honey.
A vrlo čudno da mnoga društva, da iz mnogih društava koja nisu imala spore, med je u 39% imao spore.
So what you can say, American foulbrood spores are not present in all colonies, but are present in more colonies that get the disease, or where you see the disease.
Sorry. To ask you to repeat.
American foulbrood spores are not present in all colonies.
Znači nisu prisutne spore u svakom društvu.
But it's present in more colonies than ever get diseased.
Ali su prisutno mnogo više društava nego što zaista oboli.
Because the fact that there are spores in a colony does not necessarily mean that the colony is diseased.
To znamo. Znači da to što ima spora ne znači da će da oboli.
In connection with this study, they started at the Swedish University of Agriculture to test would it be and cultivate the bee samples to to get an idea, do we have the spores in the colony or not? As a prediction.
Da li možda bolje uzimati pčele kao uzorke iz društva da bi procenili da li ima spore? Znači ne leglo, nego pčele.
So, from the same colonies, they took honey samples and bee samples at the same time.
Ok, i med i pčele su uzimali.
And as you see, in the honey, 7% of the honey of the colonies they found spores.
U 7% samo uzoraka meda su nađene spore.
But in 19% they found in the adult bees.
Ali u 19% pčela su nađene spore.
So the adult bee samples are much better to predict whether you have spores in the colony and then potentially can get the disease.
Znači, mnogo je relevantnije uzeti pčele nego med za procenu prisustva spora u društvu.
So, what is now going to be implemented in Sweden in the future? I've been working quite hard. I'm helping the Swedish Board of Agriculture on new legislation. So we're trying to implement a new system.
Znači, oni gledaju da implementiraju neki novi sistem.
Here you have a colony with an outbreak, the red square here, and as I said earlier, every colony around 3 kilometers has to be inspected. In some parts of Sweden it's a lot of colonies, maybe not as many as here, but it's quite a lot of work to do the inspections.
Kao što je prethodno već rekao, svaki okrug mora da ima svog inspektora za pčele i to je puno posla da inspektor odradi analizu baš svake košnice.
So in the future we're going to do like this. The bee inspector goes out to every apiary, takes bee samples, put the bee samples and send them to the laboratory.
Da, to će uzimati od svakog pčelinjaka uzorke odraslih pčela i sve zajedno se analizira u laboratoriji.
And when they cultivate the sample at the laboratory and find 0 spores,
ako se nađu u tom zbirnom uzorku spore,
like in the green squares here, there's no reason to go out and do the visual inspection because you won't find any symptoms.
Tamo gdje ne nađete ništa iz tih uzoraka, onda nećete košnice iz kojih su uzorci, nemate potrebe da analizirate.
So the bee inspectors can concentrate on the apiaries where they found spores.
Samo za one pčelinjake za koje su videli da je u pčelama bilo spora, idu i analiziraju te pčelinjake.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they find clinical symptoms, but what the beekeeper also gets from information is that, okay, there are spores in my apiary, I have to be more careful.
To ne znači da će da spale društvo ako nađu spore, a nema kliničkih znaka, ali je jako dobro da budu oprezniji kad znaju da imaju spore.
And so at the same time you also, which we have recommended for quite many years for the Swedish beekeepers, is to set up barrier systems. And a barrier system is a system where you don't move equipment from one, for example, colony to another, or from one apiary to another, or from one section of apiaries to another section. So if you get an outbreak of a disease in one apiary, you haven't spread it by wire material to another.
Sistem barijera, znači koji im sprečava da, odnosno oni su sami rešili da tim sistemom spreče da sa jednog na drugi pčelinjak prenose preko opreme.
And what we also recommend the beekeepers is actually a little like what Norman talked about, test for hygienic behavior.
Također rade analizu na higijenskom. Okay.
And a number of the beekeepers or the queen breeders in Sweden actually do test the material for hygienic behavior. This is done with this needle. What can be done with liquid nitrogen? This is from America.
Znači može ili iglicom kao što smo mi radili pink yield ili sa tečnim azotom kao što je malo pre gospodin Norman objašnjavao.
So here are the incidences of American foul brood found in Sweden from 1974 until 2016. It's the proportion of apiaries where American foul brood was found.
Procena društava u kojima je nađena američka trulež počeo od 74. pa do 2016. A procenti su vrlo mali, kao što vidite, do 4, samo jedan put preko 5%.
And you see for the past many years back here,
manje od 1%.
The proportion of apiaries in relation to the number of apiaries that we estimate present in Sweden is around, is between 0.5% to 1%.
Manje od 1%, but are they with or without symptoms?
Symptoms.
Aha, to su baš sa simptomima, ta procena je baš društava sa bolešću.
Yeah. Why is it the difference from 74 and then here? Because in 1974 there was a new law saying in Sweden that when you find symptoms in a colony, it has to be destroyed.
Zašto baš od 74. ovako smanjenje procenta obolelih društava? Zato što je baš ta donešen zakon da mora da se uništi društvo u kome ima kliničke slike.
Before 74, they could make shook swarm.
Pre toga su pravili rojeve.
They could, oh sorry, I can explain. So what they could do if they found a colony with symptoms, they could just shake the bees onto new frames.
Imali su pre 74. mogućnost da ne spale društvo, nego da stresu odrasle pčele u novu, čistu košnicu.
But, well, this indicates at least that to eradicate the colonies with symptoms is better than the shook swarm method. And we've seen that in other countries too. New Zealand, for example, Switzerland, I don't know about UK, but I know it's certainly a much better way to get rid of it that way.
Ipak se ta metoda uništavanja pokazala definitivno mnogo korisnijom nego prethodno korišćeno pravljenje, odnosno prebacivanje u vidu roja.
I have promised to stop at 5:30, so I'll just make it very quick when it's talk about Nosema. You probably know about Nosema. It's Immigrasporidia. You can jump here. And what happens with this, we can put here, when it infects the epithelial cells here in the ventriculus, and what happens to the bee is that, you can go here, the bees that get this infection would get reduced longevity. It wouldn't live as long. And the hypopharyngeal glands, where the bees produce food for the brood, is disintegrating. The bees get shorter lived, it's faster, getting old faster. Queens that might be infected, they would get superseded. So a number of the queens that died during the winter could be due to Nosema. And also it can happen that the bees get dysentery inside the colony during the winter.
Excuse me, what Nozema cerana or Nozematis?
Okay. Good. Nosema apis was described by Sander in 1909, and then Nosema cerana was actually described in 1996 by Ingemar Friis and his colleagues. It was found on Apis cerana in China. And at that time they thought Nosema cerana is on Apis cerana, Nosema apis is on Apis mellifera. But in 2005 it was found first in Taiwan, on Apis mellifera, and I think already also in 2005 it was found in Spain, Nosema serrana, in Europe first time, yes.
To smo pričali još 2008. when I came back from Ingemar's lab here, but he obviously didn't hear.
No. The thing is that we have done, maybe there is a tendency in Europe that Nosema serrana is much more prevalent in southern parts of Europe, whereas in northern parts we have very little Nosema serrana.
Osim onog opisa o kome ste već ovdje više puta slušali, znači Nozema serrana kod nas je od uvek u stvari i bila, ali jednostavno ako pitate za Švedsku, tamo je češća Nozema apis, jer generalno se pokazalo da u hladnim regionima Nozema apis i dalje potpuno predominantna.
And one reason could be the fact that if you have a bee like this with the infection, you can take the bee, put it in the freezer, you can take it out after half a year or 2 years, you can cross the bee and extract and put the spores from that bee into a sugar solution and feed that to other bees, and they will get diseased. That's with Apis, Nosema apis.
It remains viability.
But it does. But when it's Nosema serrana, the spores from Nosema serrana, they die in the freezer.
What's that?
I'm not quite sure. And I can tell you, in Sweden, it's very cold in the winter, and all the beekeepers who keep their equipment in the cold storage, it could be a reason for we have less Nosema serrana because the spores are killed by freezing in the winter.
Ne trpi hladno, da. Pa postoje, rađene su istraživanja, pa različita vremena i različite temperature zamrzavanja, ko će da pamti svaki detalj. Ali those symptoms,
well, I know what they say in Spain, and I know it's been discussed a lot, but what they say in Spain is that you don't see the clear symptoms with Nosema serrana infections as you see with
but in Serbia they are quite similar, almost the same symptoms that are usually described for Nosema apis. So.
One thing I would like to point out is that when Swedish beekeepers call me and they say, well, I have Nosema, okay, how do I know? They tell me that the bees have been, shitting all over the place in the colony, and they say, this is Nosema, but it's not. This is dysentery. It's dysentery.
Dysentery, okay, but not caused by Nosema?
Could have been caused by Nosema, but not necessarily.
Da, dizenterija može, ali ne mora obavezno da bude izazvana Nosemom.
It's a misconception that this is the same as Nosema. We took samples from 60 colonies with dysentery and analyzed the bees for Nosema. And as you see here, almost 70% of those samples we didn't find any Nosema, although the bees have shitted all over the place.
Od 60 društava sa dizenterijom, skoro 70% je bilo bez Nosema.
So, but if there is Nosema in a colony with dysentery, then you have trouble, of course, because then you have all the contagious, the spores. But yes, it's just important to know the differences. Nosema can trigger dysentery, and if it does, then it really worsens the situation. But dysentery can be caused by other things also.
Znači, dizenterija može, ali vrlo često, čak u 70% nije izazvana nozemom, ali ako je izazvano nozemom, odnosno ako utvrdite i prisustvo nozeme i dizenterije, problem je još gori, zato što će spore da se tim fecesom šire još mnogo brže i više, pa će još veći problem biti, nego ako je izazvana nečim drugom.
What we see on the colony level, where the colony has Nosema infection, is that we see generally reduced winter survival of the colony, lowered brood rearing capacity, especially as poor spring build-up. Colonies in the spring don't develop very well, and we also see a reduced honey yield from colonies with Nosema infection.
Znači, posljedice prisustva nozeme su smanjen opstanak preko zime, stepen, znači smanjen na brojnost preživljavanja. Let me just... Smanjen kapacitet odgoja legla, vrlo slab prolećni napredak i naravno smanjeni prinos meda.
Sometimes you could say Nosema is quite an important disease because you can't see it directly. There's no sort of clear symptoms, but as you see here, it can reduce the honey yield and increase the winter mortality.
Znači, najčešće nema jasnih simptoma i uopšte smatra se, ne zna se da li je toliko opasno obzirom da može i ne mora da izazove, ali definitivno opšte stanje slabi i prinos meda se smanjuje.
So what we recommend the beekeepers in Sweden to prevent Nosema, there's no medicine against it. We don't have any medicine, so it's a question of prevention. Winter the bees on wax foundation. If you have problems with the disease, shake the bees on wax foundation, or at least very, very clean comb.
Znači, nema preparata, nema leka. Ono što oni savjetuju njihovim pčelarima je da stresu adultne pčele na novo saće, na sadne osnove čiste.
We recommend the beekeepers not to winter the colonies on what you call honey from honeydew or honey from heather honey, because it contains quite a lot of substances that the bees cannot digest, and it triggers that they might defecate inside the colony during the winter.
Da savjetuju ih da nikad ne zazime pčele na medu od vresa, na medljici i uopšte sa bilo čim što možda im izazove digestivne probleme i da ostave fece u košnici.
We recommend to decontaminate the stored wax with acetic acid. I'll show you a picture on the next slide. And we also say try to avoid too early brood rearing, because the thing is that when the temperature in the colony rises, of course the temperature in the bees also rises, and that's when the Nosema parasite is starting really to proliferate.
Također ih savjetuju da odrade dekontaminaciju uskladištenog voska sa sirćetnom kiselinom, a da izbjegavaju rano leglo, pojavu ranog legla.
And here, the way to decontaminate with acetic acid, what we recommend the beekeepers is only use the wax that is clean, not a lot of wax that has been brooded. Put it in boxes, and here on the top this is an empty box. And then you can put a bowl, acetic acid, some paper or some cloth. Be sure to make it tightened and just let it sit there. When the acetic acid evaporates, it'll kill the spores in the comb.
Znači, način na koji tretiraju prazno saće koje je uskladišteno tokom zime pomoću sirćetne kiseline. 3/4 decilitra, mislim, napisao je.
And as I said, we also recommend the beekeepers to shake the colonies on wax foundation. And does that really work? Well, Ingemar Friis, he did his PhD thesis actually on Nozema many years ago, and he did a 5-year study where he had 3 groups of colonies. I'll show you the next picture, and tested whether this shaking onto comb foundation would work and how it would work.
Ingemar Friis je pokojni, nažalost, upravo još za doktorat radio procenu efikasnosti tog stresanja pčela odraslih na nove sadne osnove, da vidi da li to može da spreči da se ponovo javi nozema.
So here are the 3 groups that were tested. One group, the bees were wintered on comb foundation only. The next group, the brood chamber combs were changed with virgin wax in the spring, and virgin wax is wax that has been only sitting in the super, in the honey super. And the third group was no wax renewal. The colonies had to sit on the same wax for 5 years.
Znači imaju 3 grupe društava. Jednu grupu društava je zazimio samo na sadnim osnovama. Drugu grupu je zazimio na saću, koje je zamenjeno sa novim devičanskim saćem, ali tek u proleće, a u trećoj grupi nije radio ništa, jednostavno 5 godina isto saće bilo u svim košnicama, i onda je uzorke uzimao iz svih tih društava i u proleće i u jesen, analizirao na nozemu, merio površine sa leglom u proleće i merio prinos meda.
And here are the results. As you see here, old comb, no change of comb. Control, which was the one where they got the virgin wax in the spring. And the last one, foundation. As you see, this is a proportion of colonies where you found spores in the fall. That's the blue one. And the red one is a proportion of colonies with spores in the spring. And as you see, if it's old wax, it actually increased. So there were a higher number of colonies in the spring with spores than before. And the opposite for the comb foundation.
Najviše je bilo spora u proleće u onim društvima koje su ostavljena na onom vosku koji su već imali košnici, znači stari vosak, pretpostavljam kao izvor kontaminacije sporama, a najbolja situacija je bila u ovom trećem slučaju gde su na čistim satnim osnovama zazimljene pčele, u proleće bilo znatno manje spora.
So, the conclusion of this also is that wintering and comb foundation reduces the incidence of Nozema.
Znači, šta smanjuje pojavu nozeme kao bolesti, ne samo pojavu spora, nego bolest nozemu, može da spreči ili makar smanji zazimljavanje društva na satnim osnovama.
However, you cannot say that there's a direct link between Nozema and wax renewal, but the Nozema level in the spring is important for the honey production. If it's a high Nozema level, you get lower production.
Sve to ima veze i sa prinosom meda, što je manje nozeme, to će biti bolji prinos meda.
And we know also that there's probably other advantages with wintering on new foundation on other diseases. American foul brood, chalk brood, probably. At least those two has importance.
Zazimljavanjem na satnim osnovama sprečavamo i mnoge druge bolesti. Američku drulež, grečno leglo, znači ne samo nozemu.
Just a little about some surveys that has been done in Sweden. Sweden had a referendum to whether to join the EU. The referendum was in '94, and we thought, okay, if Sweden joins EU, then everyone can just bring in bees from other countries into Sweden. And what would happen? Because so far we hadn't found treacle mites. So there was a large survey on treacle mites in '93. There was a survey on Nozema in 2007. because we wanted to see, do we have Nosema ceranae? There was a tracheal mite survey 2000, this Nosema was also followed up in 2009 and 11. 2010 we had a national tracheal mite survey again. And in 2012 to 14 we have a so-called epilogy project. So we have had a number of surveys to see what kind of diseases do we have in Sweden.
Stalno rade screening na državnom nivou. Pogotovo su se uplašili pre ulaska u Evropsku uniju da će se možda nešto desiti zbog otvaranja granica i slobodnog prelaska, pa su odradili screening pre ulaska u Evropsku uniju i redovno rade ne samo na nozemu, nego i na krpelja tropilelaps, srećom nemaju. Izvinjavam se, na karapis vudi, trahealna krpelja.
So this survey on Nosema in 2007, we took 967 samples. Of those were 319 positive, so 33% of the colonies had a Nosema infection.
33% analiziranih društava 2007. godine bilo pozitivno na nozemu.
14% of those that were infected were mixed at that time, so Nosema apis and Nosema cerana, and the rest were only Nosema apis.
Ogroman procenat su bile inficirane samo Nozemom apis u Švedskoj, 86%, a vrlo mali broj sa mešanom infekcijom, a ni jedan jedini uzorak samo sa Nozemom ceranom.
And if you know about Swedish geography, you can see here the mixed infections. They are the most prevalent in the southern part of the country.
Da, a te mešovite infekcije sa Nozemom cerane su bile u južnom delu zemlje.
And when we see later on, actually, the results was from 2007. Here you have also from 9 and 11, and there's actually a tendency that the amount of the proportion of the DNA from Nosema ceranae is not increasing, but it's decreasing.
Da, čak se smanjuje tokom vremena, od 2007. na ovamo, kao što vidite ove crvene bordosto biće, smanjuje se brojnost Nozeme cerane, odnosno DNK, pošto se diferencijacija radi DNK analizom.
So what we can say is we don't have any problems with Nosema cerana in Sweden.
Oni nemaju nikakav problem sa Nozemom ceranom.
2016 we made a so-called baselines. Sorry, this was not. I'm a little ahead. This is a study from 2010. Apart from analyzing for a number of samples for tracheal mites, we didn't find any tracheal mites. We analyzed samples from 130 apiaries for other pathogens.
Nakon analize na trahealno krpelja, i nisu našli nijedno, radili su analize 304 pčelinjaka na druge bolesti.
We found Nosema in 18% of the samples.
U 18% je svega bilo Nozeme.
And American foul brood spores in 5% of the samples.
A sam spora, znači ne bolesti, nego spora američke truleži samo u 5%.
So when people say American foul brood spores are all over the place, it's not true. We found it in 5%.
Tako da ona priča da spora ima u skoro svim društvima nije tačna. Svega u 5 društava su našli spore, da kažem ne bolesti, spore samo.
2016 we made a new study with 382 apiaries that were analyzed for these pathogens here.
2016 su opet radili screening na sve ove bolesti, 382 pčelinjaka.
I just jumped. And in that, only 6% of the samples we found American foul.
I opet jako malo, 6% pčelinjaka je imalo američku trulež. Spore, ne bolesti, spore.
So what we conclude is tracheal mites is still not present in Sweden. European foulbrood is very, very rare. This is not a problem at all. American foulbrood is not a very big problem, and there's nothing showing that Nosema serrana is replacing Nosema apis.
Šta su zaključili? Da nemaju i dalje trahealnog krpelja, da...
At all times.
Svih ovih godina, ako pogledate...
And if you take the whole 93-year period, the average is 13%.
Za tek nekih 96 godina prosek je gubitaka zimskih 13%.
But although we have always have had winter losses, we can see from the statistics that the losses have increased. Here I put the winter losses for 10-year periods.
Ako gledamo po 10 godina, za dekade, od decenije, ipak neki porast postoji poslednjoj deceniji u odnosu na sve prethodne decenije.
So you see here the last 10-year period from 2007 to 2016 compared to all other 10-year periods that we have figures on is statistically higher.
Statistički čak je gledano više i golim okom se vidi u poslednjoj deceniji. What is the cause?
What is the cause? That's a good question. What is the cause? That's a really good question. Here are our figures from Sweden from the color survey that we've done since 2009, and it goes. The lowest we actually have had during that period was 9.6%, and the highest was 24.7%, which was very high.
Da, jedne godine je baš bilo mnogo, 24,7 2009. na 10, a imali su jako malo, 9,6 neki.
One reason is actually varroa.
Da li je razlog varroa?
We have this lucky situation, as I told before, in Sweden, that varroa is quite new, and we still have. When I started working in Sweden, 97, varroa was just present in the southernmost part of the country, very far down, not even where I live now. So we have had the possibility to compare winter losses in areas with varroa and without varroa for a number of years.
Okay. Oni dalje imaju delove bez varoe, varoa je za njih relativno nova pojava i ovo su napravili upoređivanje zimskih gubitaka društava koji nemaju varou i gubitaka koji imaju varou, jer oni još uvijek imaju mnoge predele bez varoje.
As you see here, 2010, much higher winter losses in the areas with varroa compared to the areas without.
Konkretno 2010. godine vidite koliko je veći procenat gubitaka društava kad imaju varou nego među društvima koje nemaju.
And that's consistent, we've seen that all. And I think that's one very, very important reason. But there are other reasons too, of course. We cannot exclude pesticides. I think, as we heard this morning from Konabi, the neonicotinoids and other pesticides, we cannot exclude that the situation for pollen and nectar is not as good today as it was when you get 50 years back in the future. But sometimes we also have beekeepers who are not giving their colonies enough food for the winter.
Ne može da isključi one druge faktore, zato što ni polen ni nektar nisu kao ranije, ni drugi faktori nisu isti kao što je bilo pre 50 godina, a jedan od faktora je i zimska ishrana, hrana na kojoj se ostave pčele zime.
I don't know about here, but I saw the picture on the magazine that you also have winter here, of course, and the bees in the snow. We have quite long winters in Sweden, and we really need to feed the colonies a lot of feed to make the colonies survive. And when we test, when we look in the study or the data and ask the beekeepers, how much sugar did you give them before winter? And how high were your winter losses? we see the beekeepers who gave a lower amount of sugar, they have much higher winter losses.
Who gave lower amount?
A lot, no. If you see this one here, I make a break point. If I ask the beekeeper, how many kilos of sugar did you give your colonies before winter? And if it was less than 15 kilos of sugar, dry matter, those beekeepers have much higher losses.
Što se tiče prihrane, oni imaju jako dugu zimu i oni stvarno moraju da prihrane te pčele da prosto prežive. I kada su napravili to istraživanje, pčelari koji su davali manje od 15 kg pre zime šećera, koji su davali manje od 15 kg šećera pre zime, imali su znatno veće gubitke od onih koji su davali više od 15 kg šećera.
So what I say to the beekeepers, of course we can work like our organizations can work to get better environment for the bees, like better pastures, nectar, honey, reduced amount of pesticides and so on. But I myself personally, when I stand behind my colony, doesn't really matter. What I can do is what I do with my colony. So if I want to make the colony, or the chances that the colony survive, I treat control varroa, good, strong colonies, healthy winter bees, and enough feed. That's really important point.
Znači oni moraju da hrane pčele da bi opstale i on to sam radi i moraju da drže pod kontrolom varroa. To su neke dve osnovne stvari koje na kraju podvlači kao uslov opstanka pčela. For the winter, we recommend either sugar solution or inverted sugar. No, how can I say?
Candy.
Gospodin pita ovo preživljavanje, kad istresa pčele, jer oni moraju izgraditi saće, stavlja na slatno. Kad to radi da bi se oni pripremili za zimu? Dobro,
Jeste da li si čuo prevodilac?
Good. He did it right after when you take the honey in August and then you feed. Sometimes it's necessary to feed to get enough strength, but then by the end of August, just shake all the bees on the
foundation.
Yes, I can show you from. Just hang on a sec. For example, in Norway, it's been very, very common to do this. Half of all the honey production in Norway is heather honey. So the beekeepers, they put thousands and thousands of colonies on the heather from sometimes in August and until 15th or 20th of September. As you see here. And it's extremely well organized in Norway. So you have these huge areas, and you see here, it's a sign. This sign shows this is your area, and you have to actually also, as you see here, when you put your colonies, you also have to put a paper that this is my, no, I put my bees here.
Mora čak I da obeleže, jer to je užasno veliki broj ljudi koji seli u to vreme na to područje.
So when they get the colonies back from the heather, it's in 15th of this September. There's no brood left in the colony. There's only honey and no brood. Adult bees, of course.
Oko 15. do 30. septembra, kad vrate pčele sa tog vresa gde su selili, tu nema ništa od legla, samo je med.
Then it's very easy to shake the bees on comb foundation. And you probably would think, in the middle of September, to shake the bees on comb foundation and give them winter feed. Does that work? Yes, it does actually. There was a Norwegian researcher who did this already back in the 60s, and the last feed they gave them was in early October. You need to give them a more feed, but it works.
Ostave ih na sadnim osnovama, još im daju šećer, funkcionišu. Nema na osnovama.
Kako ih radi?
If you give them enough feed...
Znate, ako se ja sad izvinjam se, da on tad stane i prihranjuje, on istovremeno grade satne osnove i lageruju zalihe.
The comb? Yes.
In same time, build up.
Yes, yes, they do. You can put a comb foundation in the colony, and you give them they build out the comb and they store the honey, no, not the honey, the winter feed. That's right, there's no pollen, but the thing is with pollen, I think we have to revise our idea about pollen. It's really important for the bees to collect pollen for the winter bees, and at the time when you get into September, the winter bees have already been born. They have been fed up with pollen, and they've been eating pollen. So what they need before winter is carbohydrates to survive. And in the spring, of course, if there's no natural sources of pollen, then it can be necessary to give them pollen. But I think it's really much more important that they get the pollen sources when they build up the winter bees in the colony. No, sorry, no. Yes.
Sad će izgrađeno zimi ili ide? Zimi je izgrađeno, ne mogu raditi. Što kažem, oni stave to, pa izgrade saće i na tome saću zatim. Inače, na praznom saću, a gdje hrana, kako bi živi?
Gospodine, prihranjuje ih, oni istovremeno grade saće i lageru.
Tako. Radi osnovu i...
Stavi satnu osnovu.
I na puni med. Ali ženski nove. On to radi, on izgrade saće i na tome saću za zimu.
How they give the food? I'll show you. You can give the food in different... I don't know how you feed, but I can show you.
Jer inače nije, kako bi onome samo zimi.
But it's not foundation. They build out the foundation so you can... They build out what they need. You're not the only one who doesn't believe it.
It's too late. For my belief, it's too late to build up the combs in October.
Well, October, yeah, but if you under Scandinavian conditions in Sweden and in Norway, it is possible actually if you shake the bees on comb foundation and give them enough food in the middle of September. If you have strong colonies, you need healthy, strong bees, then they can do it. This is the way I feed my colony. We feed our colonies. We have this wooden thing here. You can see there's an opening here. We put a plastic bag. Just put the sugar syrup there and some straw. The bees don't drown. So the bees go up here, take the sugar solution and go down. And you can have these feeder boxes, of course, but what we have experienced is that how can I say, the distance between the bees and this plastic bag is very little, and there's no insulation. If you have this styrofoam feeder box, it's insulated, so the heat from the bees doesn't go up to the feed. But here, if you put reasonably warm sugar solution, and you have the heat from the bees, they take it very, very quickly. You can put 10 liters of feed in that the day after it's gone.
How much?
10 liters the day after it's gone.
In one day?
Yes. If they're gone, it is as
How
well.
many times? That's enough?
No, we give 2 buckets of this, and we can feed them in less than a week.
Excuse me, in one portion, how much feed you give? Kolika porcija u jednom hranjenju?
Depends. If the nectar flow has stopped, and I have taken the honey already by the end of July, I give them small portions to keep them breeding. Okay.
Sredinom jula, tako je, on nastaje prikrat.
Da bi održavao razvoj, da bi razvio društvo.
If the colony is strong enough, and they don't need to breed anymore, I give them a lot of feed at the same time. Also because for me it's an advantage to get, when they have done the breeding they need, it's an advantage to get the colony to shut down breeding so I can treat with oxalic acid. It's difficult to explain.
Namjerno da bi stavljao oksalisalinu ranije, to se razumije. What time you put oxalic acid?
In November.
November?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes in December, but in November.
It's cold in that time.
What is?
In November it's cold.
Oh, it's cold, yes. I don't know, I don't have time to show a lot more, but there was I can show you the way we do our beekeeping. This is my wife here. We winter on one box here, and the frame size is like this height here.
LM.
LM, it's a Swedish measure. We have 10 different frame sizes in Sweden, but it's like this. And the next box we put on our colony here is with virgin wax. Wax that has only been honey in before. Then when it's time to put on the honey supers, we switch the brood box. So the new one here gets down on this, and the old one here, and then we have the green excluder. And these are the honey supers. And so when we come to the next time, we put the honey supers, the new supers, underneath. And okay, yeah, that's a lot of work. But the reason is we know that they will sort of put the feed or the honey in the boxes that are not already full with honey. And anyway, we are going down to the brood room to remove drone brood. Okay. And three
during the winter, how many boxes there have? Just
one.
LF.
LM, like this. So, and 3 weeks before we take the last honey, we put the queen in the bottom box here, the queen excluder. And this is the old wax that the bees sat on last year and this winter. And then when that old comb wax, brood wax gets home, it's melted down. Yeah, so we sort of continually change the waxes.
Every year, I understand.
Every year, yes, yes. It's a lot of work, but it works. And when we do the inspections, if we don't want to check for anything, we just lift the boxes and look here if it's okay. The honey yield, last year we had about 40 kilo per colony, which was quite low. Normally we're around 60 kilos per colony. And we use a bee blower. No, this is not a bee blower. Here's a bee. She is a bee blower. Here we have this electric bee blower. We have a transformer. We have a battery and a transformer that just blow out the bees like this. It really works nicely. You probably know this one here, I guess.
Kad skida med, izduva pčela. Znači kao nekim fenom koji izduva.
It's a what? Yeah. This is a good friend of mine, ours. He's the largest beekeeper in Finland. His wife got about 1,500, almost 2,000 colonies. And when they feed the colonies, they have a big tank on the truck, and it's just like when you go to the petrol station. It really works well.
Sa crevom kao na benzinskoj pumpi što uzimate gorivo, tako oni šećerom.
Šećerni sirup u rezervoaru i stipa ga u hranilnici iz rezervoara kao sa benzinskom.
Što je to najveći pčelar u Norveškoj.
And when you winter outdoors, sometimes you can't find the colonies. I guess it's the same here sometimes. Here's my wife, she's trying to dig out the colonies. So in Norway, for example, there are a number of beekeepers who winter the colonies inside. Here's one. So every fall, when the bees have got enough food, he brings the colonies into this basement, and they sit there until spring.
Koliko vremena nemaju pročisnog leta?
How long do they survive without cleaning?
They do the cleaning flights sometimes. Inside, even if inside. I worked with bees in Canada, and we brought the colonies in to the storage buildings in September, and we took them out in April. And that worked. So many months.
Sve do aprila ih ne izvuku, ali one
But if you go into these big halls with you cannot turn on the light, but you have a headlight with red lights so the bees don't flee. You see the bees on the floor because they fly out of the boxes and fly out. But not for cleansing flight. The cleansing flight, they can sit, if they're good, strong, healthy colonists, they can sit half a year without going out on the cleansing flight. No, they don't go out for cleansing. No. Out of that building? No. They go out of their colonies, but not out.
Are they closed with are they locked?
No. I can show you again. Oh, you can actually see it here on the floor. Maybe not. All these black spots are dead bees. So the entrances are open. So it's completely natural for bees during the winter to fly out and die outside the colonies. If it's not bloody freezing, so they cannot fly, but if it's just because at this temperature they are actually able to fly out of the colony, and it's completely natural for a bee fly out and it die outside, but it doesn't fly outside. About somewhere between 2 and 4 degrees. Above 5 degrees, it's getting a little problematic. 2 to 4 degrees is idealistic.
И да на температура у подруму да би презимил. Не сме преко тога да буде.
Let's see, I'll just show you. Sorry. Here you go. This is a guy who has this truck here with his boom. And so when he goes out and work the collar, because we do it manually. We lift the long boxes during the summer, and it's heavy for the backs. I think you know about that. And he has developed this thing so he can lift a lot of boxes and just move them aside, and then he can work the bees here in the blue channel. It saves the back.
Koja vrsta pčela? Apis mellifera ili karnika?
I can show you in Sweden. I can show you the bee races. The most common bee race in Sweden, bee race is Buckfast actually. But then you can also argue, what is Buckfast? Buckfast is many different things, but yeah, that we know. But then we have Ligustica, Carnica, mellifera, hybrids and dome. But actually this is, it should have been the year, it's quite many years ago I did this one. If you look at it today, the proportion of the mellifera is higher. Mellifera, the black bee is getting more popular in Sweden. If you look at Sweden here, all these places are isolated mating stations for the different races of bees. And if you look at it, Buckfast is mostly in this part of Sweden, and the further north you get, it's Carnica and mellifera. Which one? Should I? Oh, what can I say about it? Well, It's difficult to say anything big. Buckfast bee is basically a combination. I don't know what Norman would say about this, but I think, buckfast bees is so many different things. And what has been done is that you've taken different races or lines and you just cross them with each other. And sometimes you get a very good result and sometimes it's really bad. I've had killer bees, really killer bees in buckfast, and sometimes they're good.